Let's go, batter up. We're taking the afternoon off.
When Don Sutton became a major league pitcher, he found himself part of a starting rotation that included Sandy Koufax and Don Drysdale. Unlike Steve Garvey, playing for the Dodgers wasn't exactly a boyhood ambition with Sutton.
I grew up absolutely detesting the Dodgers. I hated the Dodgers. I was a Yankee fan my whole life, and every October the Dodgers used to beat on my Yankees. In 1963, the year before that I signed, Koufax just killed my Yankees. And, you know, I hated the Dodgers. I could never see me playing with the Dodgers. And as a matter of fact, the day before I signed with the Dodgers, I had made out a priority list. It was getting down to the nitty-gritty, and I wanted to decide right away and get signed and maybe go to winter ball in September of '64. So I made out a priority list, and I started by putting the Yankees at the top and the Dodgers at the bottom. And I said, there's no way. You'd have to be a complete idiot to sign with a club that had a list of guys as long as your arm who were 6'5", 230 pounds, who could throw it right through the side of the stadium. And fortunately for me, I met two guys, one Monty Bascom and another guy named Burt Wells, who convinced me that it was a good organization. And I think one of the selling points they used was if you can pitch in the big leagues, you can pitch anywhere, and you might as well do it for a class organization. And so I ended up, based on those two guys and that alone, because I knew nobody else in the Dodger organization. I came to LA in 1962 for a student council convention, and the third day of the convention, they gave us our choice of coming to a Dodger game or going to Disneyland. I went to Disneyland. I absolutely could not think of any reason to come to Dodger Stadium and watch the Dodgers. I mean, now if it had been Yankee Stadium, that's different, but you know, all those things put together, to me, it's kind of uncanny that I did end up here and that I've enjoyed a very pleasant career here.
Once he learned to detest the Giants instead of the Dodgers, Sutton learned a lot from Koufax and Drysdale.
They influenced me in more areas than just my pitching life because, you know, I was a country boy. I'd only been in 3 states until 1962, so I didn't know too much about the ways of the world, and so I didn't know how much to tip a clubhouse man, how much to tip in a restaurant, or do I sign, or do I pay, or what do I do, what time to meet the bus, and so these guys were very helpful to me, and I feel very honored to have been able to play with those two guys, and I also feel honored that they were the kind of guys that would take the time to see that a young guy wasn't totally lost. Sandy was a kind of a quiet, introverted type guy, but he was always willing to discuss pitching, to discuss the hitters, and to discuss really anything that you had a question about it. Don was a more open, jovial, kidding type guy, a big guy that you have to respect, and my style of pitching was somewhere in between the two. I wasn't going to knock anybody down. I wasn't going to blow anybody away. So, you know, it had to be a combination of the two. But yet, guys who had been around as long as they had, there were a lot of things that could help me learn. You know, when I stop and think back, if my career were to be over right now, I could say that I pitched on a pitching staff with 3 guys who are surefire Hall of Famers. One is already in the Hall of Fame. You know that Drysdale's going to be there. And then I spent a few weeks with another guy that I think has been the classiest pitcher I've seen pitch, and that's Juan Marichal. So when you look back over a career and you say, I pitched with, not I played with or I watched, but I pitched with 3 Hall of Famers, it's a big thrill. When you analyze everything, playing in Dodger Stadium, it's an ideal place to play, and I think knowing Peter O'Malley and the classy gentleman that he is, and playing for Walter Austin, and then having Monty Bascom here, who convinced me to play with the Dodgers, Red Adams, who has to be the best pitching coach in baseball. Having all these people here, it's a nice office to come to work.
Now, Drysdale was accused of throwing a spitter and a grease ball when he pitched for the Dodgers. Sutton has been accused of marking up the ball as well. They aren't sure if he does it with sandpaper, a knife, or his belt buckle.
The actual charges themselves don't bother me. I was kidding with Ted Simmons about a bat incident when umpire had found a groove bat and had taken it away from him. He had yelled at me. I said, well, I guess you'll get off me and leave me alone now. And he said, but I don't cheat. And I said, yeah, but I don't get caught. So, you know, I don't mind people accusing me of things like that. What the heck? As long as they're thinking about something other than swinging at my curveball, that's all right, too. I would like to think that I'm a little bit of a con artist. I think I have to be, because I don't have a Nolan Ryan fastball or Koufax fastball, and I don't have an Andy Messersmith changeup, so I have to use deception, change of speeds, and if being a con artist is going to help me win, then obviously I'm going to do it. I hope they think I carry a Vegematic out there. And I hope they come looking for the son of a gun, too, because that's all right. I don't care. They've checked every place they can possibly check anyway. The only way I could fool them would be to find a new piece of uniform to put on, so the one that they haven't checked. They've checked everything but the soles of my shoes. But it doesn't bother me at all. The deception, the harassment, the psychological warfare, it's all a part of the game. And I'm not going to throw the ball, I'm ready to throw it anyway. So if they want to rant and rave and get carried away, that's all right. I do know that there's one manager in the league that's not going to bother me, and that's Sparky Anderson. Because Sparky, if he were to get wrapped up in watching me pitch, he might miss a chance to make a pitching change. I loaded the ball up early in my career. I threw a spitter. I haven't played with too many guys that didn't at one time or another, but I started getting hurt with it more than it helped me, so I figured, what the heck, I might as well quit that. But Don did tell me that anytime you're out there, anything you can do to upset the hitter's thinking, his timing, his swing, or any phase of the psychological warfare you can use it by all means, because it's a dollar and cents game. The better I can do my job and the better I can get them out, then the better I can feed my family.
The very fine author, Roger Kahn, immortalized the great Brooklyn teams of the 1950s in his book, The Boys of Summer. And what a book it is. Want to know who the part-time, springtime bat boy was for the Boys of Summer in Florida? The bat boy was Steve Garvey, who will never forget that experience.
I think it was just about 1955, which is kind of a great year in Dodger history. And at that time, I was just about 6 going on 7. And my dad came up to me one morning and he said, "Son," he said, "I have the Brooklyn Dodgers today. Would you like to come along?" And I said, "Dad, I'd love to, but it's a Thursday, though." He said, "Well, I think for this occasion, we could skip school." And I said, "Fine, you know, it's great." So we went to the airport, and of course the Dodgers even had their plane then. And I remember the first time those players coming off the plane, I was more or less awestruck. These were the world champions, been in a World Series, and here were your Furillos and your Hodges and your Campanellos and all the people that you had read about. And then as the day wore on a little bit, as we got to the park, more of the players would say, "Gee, Joe, it's a good-looking boy you got there. Gee, he really resembles you. Can he play baseball? Maybe he'll be a Dodger someday." And all these things, you know, you remember, they kind of come back into your mind. And then everybody got suited up and they went out to take infield and batting practice. And Gil Hodges said, "Come on, Steve, would you like to play catch?" And I had trouble remembering which hand to put the glove on. It was just that exciting for me. And I think at that instant, when somebody with that awe about them says to you, "Let's play catch," in a sport that you have just started to get to know and love, I think that's instantly when you develop an interest. And at that time with Gil Hodges, with him being the type of man he was, where he said hello and wanted to do something with me, I became an instant fan. And I became a Gil Hodges fan, and of course I was a Dodger fan, but from that point on is when I developed my more or less idol worship. And I think it's great. I think at that time I said to myself, "Gee, I imagined being a first baseman for the Dodgers one day." And of course, all of a sudden, I am. Not wearing number 14, but wearing number 6. But still, in the same vein, is that when that one man did a little something different to a little boy, to give him a spark, to ignite an interest in baseball and in the Dodgers itself, it was just tremendous for me. And I know at that time, from then on till about the age of 12, is when I stopped being a bat boy then. But through the years, everybody each year would remember me and remember Dad and remember how I had grown, and everybody would say, "Well, maybe someday he's going to be a Dodger." And all of a sudden, at the age of 19 years, I was drafted by the Dodgers out of Michigan State University. In 1966, I was drafted by Minnesota as their second-round draft choice, and this was just about the first or second year of the draft. And at that time, I had wondered, will the Dodgers draft me? And if the Minnesota Twins at that time didn't draft me, I think they had the 2nd or 3rd pick in the AAA draft. The Dodgers had told me that they probably would draft me in that same round. So just unfortunately then, that Minnesota did draft me. And I said to myself, well, after talking, of course, with my parents, would college be a little more of a benefit to me than signing right out of high school? We decided, yes, that Michigan State, in offering a football and baseball scholarship, would be the best road to take. And it turned out to be the best road, because in 1968, after 2 years at Michigan State, I was drafted in the first round by the Dodgers. Baseball is a little different from football in one way, that you know when you're drafted almost instantaneously on the football draft. But in baseball, unfortunately, I found out the next morning in the paper, so my anxieties were built up, and I was wondering, gee, I wonder who drafted me. And then a call came a little later, we'll contact you in 2 days. Mr. Guy Wellman, who was the Midwest supervising scout came to see me. But in finding out through the paper, you know, you think, gee, I wonder why they didn't call me. But just to see Steve Garvey drafted by the Dodgers was just an instant dream come true. You really pride yourself in being able to play two sports at a major college level. And I did have a decision to make, but the thing that really overpowered and overswayed the whole main final decision was that it was the Dodgers. And people say, you know, I thought you could have got a bigger bonus for signing. Well, little did they know that I really would have taken much, much less just to be a part of the Dodger organization. And to get the opportunity to be signed by them at that time, really, there was no decision in my mind to be made. Football, I can always coach. I enjoy coaching with high school kids and at the college level from time to time, but I think baseball is my one true love and the one thing that I thought that I'd be able to play for a number of years and be able to make a good living at, and being able to play in Los Angeles, where I knew that the millions of people and the many, many baseball fans would come out to the park and that I would have an opportunity to interact with them. When you're a young age, you usually associate the person that you most admire with a position. When I was in high school, of course, Ken Boyer was one of my many idols at the time, and he was a third baseman. I had been playing third base at a high school level. And I had been a third baseman because of, when I was in high school, I had a strong arm and good quick reflexes and primarily a good bat. So they needed a third baseman in high school, and I played there. At Michigan State, I went there as a third baseman. But unfortunately, at the end of my freshman year, I received a shoulder separation playing spring football. And I never did quite regain the same accuracy I had previous to that. So when I signed with the Dodgers in 1968, Tommy Lasorda at Ogden worked on it quite a bit, and we got some accuracy down then. I never had problem fielding a baseball. I always had what they classify as good, quick hands, good soft hands. So the only problem I had was throwing a baseball. When I came to the Dodgers in Los Angeles in 1970, I had a problem then, worked it out in 71, and then unfortunately regressed to the point where the main problem I had in 72 was accuracy to first base. The number of errors I made, I think 85% of them were throwing. So I think at that time Walter Olson probably said to himself that, well, he's got good hands, let's find a place where we can put the hands to use, and his arm is strong enough, and let's find a place where the accuracy isn't that vital. So I went to left field the first part of 1973. The team got off to a good start, and unfortunately I sat down for 2 months, and then he said one day, I've seen you play a couple of games at first base, would you like to try it tonight? And I said, anything to get in the lineup. And I guess the rest has been history since the middle of 1973 as a Dodger first baseman.
It's a fact of life in professional sports that the names have to change. Jimmy Wynn, the hero of 1974, is gone. But he'll never forget those fans in left field, especially one. Jimmy, listen one more time to one of the truly great and loyal Dodger fans, Francis Friedman.
Come on, Jimmy! Hey, Jimmy! That's okay! Hey, Jimmy!
Yeah, that's her. That remarkable woman. Her little squeaky voice. Come on, Dodgers. What a wonderful woman.
Yes, she is a wonderful woman who will do anything to help her Dodgers win. Like the time that I told her that the wearing of garlic is an old Italian remedy for anything, from getting rid of vampires to the Cincinnati Reds. Well, Francis showed up in the left field pavilion with a cardboard box full of the sacred lily.
Who wants a piece of garlic? Good luck for the Dodgers! Would you like some garlic, Sam? That's good luck!
The luck the Dodgers need comes from their fans. You can draw strength from the loyalty they've shown inside Dodger Stadium. And sometimes you draw enough to win championships.
We're gonna cheer and boo and raise a hullabaloo.